The wind howled through the trees, sending shivers down Sarah's spine as she trudged deeper into the heart of the forest. She couldn't believe she had let her curiosity lead her to this point, far from the safety of her campsite. The dense canopy blocked out most of the moonlight, leaving her path shrouded in darkness. She had heard the stories from the locals, the tales of the Whispering Woods, a place where eerie whispers echoed through the trees, and shadows danced in the night. But Sarah had always been one to scoff at superstitions, believing that there was a logical explanation for everything. As she walked, the air grew colder, and a heavy sense of unease settled in her chest. She tried to convince herself that it was just her imagination, that the stories were nothing more than campfire tales meant to frighten tourists. But every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs sounded like sinister footsteps closing in on her. With a deep breath, Sarah pushed forward, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The light illuminated gnarled roots that seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers, ready to snatch her ankles. A peculiar rustling caught her attention, and she aimed her flashlight toward the source. Two glowing eyes stared back at her from the underbrush, a pair of foxes, their gaze unblinking. Relieved, Sarah let out a nervous chuckle. Just foxes, she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible above the wind. But as she turned to continue her journey, the whispers began. Faint, almost indiscernible, they slithered through the air like serpents. She shone her flashlight around, trying to locate the source, but the whispers seemed to come from all directions. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice trembling. The wind seemed to carry the whispers closer, wrapping around her like a chilling embrace. Panic rose within her, and she quickened her pace, desperate to escape the eerie chorus. Branches clawed at her clothes, as if trying to keep her within the forest's grasp. She stumbled and fell to her knees, her flashlight clattering to the ground. Heart pounding, she fumbled to pick it up, her trembling hands barely able to hold on to it. As the beam of light swept across the trees, she caught a glimpse of something, a figure standing amidst the shadows. Frozen with fear, she watched as the figure emerged from the darkness. It was tall, impossibly so, its limbs elongated and distorted. Its face was obscured, a mere suggestion of features hidden beneath a veil of darkness. The whispers grew louder, forming words that twisted her name into a haunting melody. Sarah. Tears welled up in her eyes as she tried to flee, but her legs felt like lead. The figure glided closer, its elongated fingers brushing against the trees as it moved. The air grew frigid, her breath visible in the night. In a last surge of desperation, Sarah managed to stumble to her feet and ran, her flashlight swinging wildly in her hand. The whispers pursued her, surrounding her like a swarm of malevolent insects. She could feel the figure's presence behind her, its whispers now a cacophony that clawed at her sanity. As she burst through the tree line, Sarah's heart sank. She was back at the campsite, but something was horribly wrong. The tents were tattered and torn, the campfire reduced to smoldering embers. Fear clenched her chest as she realized that this was no longer the world she knew. The forest had trapped her in its nightmare. From the shadows emerged distorted forms, grotesque parodies of human shapes. They moved toward her with jerky, unnatural motions, their mouths contorted into silent screams. Sarah stumbled backward, her screams joining the symphony of horrors that filled the air. And then, chilling silence descended. The figures froze, their attention drawn to the forest's center. There, amidst the shadows, the tall, distorted figure stood, its presence commanding their obedience. The whisper ceased, replaced by a suffocating stillness. Sarah watched in terror as the figure raised its elongated arms, the darkness swirling around it. In a voice that seemed to come from the depths of the abyss, it spoke, its words echoing through the night. "Welcome, Sarah. You have awakened the darkness that slumbers within these woods. You shall become one with us, forever bound to the Whispering Woods." As the figure's words washed over her, Sarah felt herself being pulled into the abyss of the forest's nightmare. The world around her twisted and distorted, merging with the shadows until there was nothing left but darkness. And then, all was quiet, save for the chilling whispers that echoed through the Whispering Woods, where the line between reality and nightmare had forever been erased.